Okay.
Mr. Copy's on too. We're good.
Danielle, all ready to go?
I am ready to go.
Okay. All right, everybody, welcome to the June 24th meeting of the Millstone Township Planning Board. Danielle, would you please read the statement of adequate notice?
Of course. In accordance with Chapter 231, PL 1975, the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required, specifying the time and location, with such notice as being sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Times of Trenton, posted on the Municipal Public Notice Meeting Bulletin Board, and filed with the Township Clerk.
Okay, thank you. Would everyone please stand and join us in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice.
for all.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Danielle, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Newman,
Yes.
Committeeman Ziner,
Yes.
Committeewoman Zabrowski,
Yes.
Mr. Cotby. He was just there. Uh-oh, I think he fell off the call. Hold on. He may sign back in. We'll get back to him. Mr. Lambros.
Here.
Miss Sinha.
Here.
No. Mr. Perino.
Here.
Mr. Cipriano.
Here.
And Mr. Copy again. There he is. Hi, Hesham. I think your microphone's off there. You want to wave? Okay. Mr. Copy is present. All right, and Mr. Pato and Mr. Pepe are both absent. Mr. Perino will be seated for Mr. Pato. Mr. Cipriano will be seated for Mr. Pepe.
Okay, thank you. And just to confirm, we have a quorum to proceed?
We do have a quorum.
Okay, thanks. So first item is any public comment. If anyone would like to comment on anything that's not otherwise scheduled for discussion on our agenda today, this is your opportunity. Please raise your hand or simply speak up. Danielle, I don't see anybody. Do you see anybody?
No, I do not.
All right, then we will, hold on one second. My screen decided to change. There we go. Okay, so fine, we'll close public comment portion and move on to the next agenda item, which is approval of our minutes.
Mr. Chairman, it appears that Mr. Pepe has joined the board. So
Hey, guys. Okay. All right. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining. So we're on to approval of the minutes. So Danielle, you have 2 minutes listed, April 9th and May 13th. So we'll take them separately. First, is there a motion to approve the minutes of our April 9th meeting? So I'll make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or suggested revisions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Chairman Newman,
Yes.
Committeeman Ziner,
Yes.
Committeewoman Zabrowski,
Yes.
Mr. Lambros,
Yes.
Mr. Pepe,
Yes.
Ms. Sinha,
Yes.
Mr. Cipriano.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Next is our May 13th special meeting minutes. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes. There's a limited group of us that were there. Is there someone that would like to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or suggested revisions? Seeing none, Danielle, please call the roll.
Chairman Newman,
Yes.
Committeewoman Zabrowski,
Yes.
Mr. Copy. He's having a problem with his microphone, I think.
Yes.
There you go. Ms. Sinha,
Yes.
Mr. Perino,
Yes.
and Mr. Cipriano.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks, everybody. Before we get to the topic at hand, last administrative item is a resolution of approval. Robert Horzeppa, Block 43, Lot 11.01, 44 Foreman Road. Would someone like to make a motion to approve that resolution?
So I have a question before we get a motion, or do you want a motion and then question?
Yeah, typically it'd be a motion, then discussion. So I'll make the motion. Steve, is there a second? You can second.
I'll make the second to open it for discussion.
Okay. Great. Now we'd like to open it for any comments, discussion.
Sure.
suggestions.
I did not get a chance to read it, but I saw it. Did Danielle, did you make a note in your email that there were some changes or a couple of items that were changed?
Yes,
in the,
I can pull them up on the screen for everyone. Bear with me 1 second.
Okay.
May make it easier there. Can everybody see my shared screen?
Yes.
And I can
Okay.
see it.
So the edits are in red, as you can see here, added unfinished single-family home, local historic, that's the old farmhouse. Same mimicking them here, so they're a little more clearly identified. There were two issues that were brought up by Mr. Shafai. One was about the items that were encroaching on the neighboring property. The others were the items that were on the property. So I put them both as separate lines instead of consolidating them here.
Right.
If you guys want to take a second to look at that, there were a couple just random words in there regarding the testimony that was provided by the applicant.
All right. It all looks consistent with what we heard.
This was a duplicative number 14, so it was crossed out. There were some variances that the applicant didn't pay for, so I added that in as a condition that they will have to pay for their variances that they were supposed to pay for. They originally filed without any variances, so it came out that they needed some during the course of the review. And then these are there was one additional comment in: the applicant shall obtain confirmation from the municipal zoning officer that the violation notices that were issued have been resolved prior to the subdivision plans being signed. And again, I reworded it that there were the encroachments on one property, but also the items that were being stored on the property that were to be removed, that they represented were going to be removed.
So
Right.
Steve, my only suggested revision here is in condition 6, new condition 6, that it say obtain written confirmation.
Okay, I can change that as we speak.
All right. Anything else from anyone else on these, what I'll call mostly ministerial edits to clean this up?
No,
Okay.
I'm
so
okay with it.
Yeah, me too. So I'll amend my motion to confirm that this is acceptable. Steve, is your second still good?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Any further suggested comments or revisions? Seeing none, and thank you, Steve, for directing us to follow that. Danielle, please call the roll.
Yeah, Chairman Newman,
Yes.
Committeewoman Zabrowski,
Yes.
Mr. Copsey. I got my yes in the notes there. Thank you. Ms. Sinha,
Yes.
Mr. Perino,
Yes.
and Mr. Cipriano.
Yes.
And Lambros, yes,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lambros.
that's okay.
I had you
Okay.
crossed off.
Yeah,
My
no one-
apologies. I read the wrong one there.
All right,
Yeah,
I
call
want
me
the
later,
record to
but that's
reflect
okay.
that Mr. Cotby is impressive, putting everything in the notes like that. All right, next item on our agenda and the last item is the master plan, PB 2025-09, Millstone Township's Housing Element and Fair Share Plan, public hearing and adoption of proposed amendments. I'm going to turn this over to McKinley and perhaps Mike and our special Affordable Housing Council, Jeff, to give us a summary and update as appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, before we start, I can advise the board that I've reviewed the service in connection with the hearing. Notice of hearing is appropriate, was sent to the necessary parties and published properly to the board jurisdiction to hear this proceeding.
Okay, thank you.
McKinley, do you either swear or affirm that any testimony you're about to give in connection with this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And do we, Mike, we don't have to do anything regarding McKinley's qualifications. I trust the board accepts her as our professional planner and a professional as an expert.
I think that goes without saying, yes.
Okay, good. See, it's McKinley. It was a question for a moment, but you're all good.
Yep. Happy to spill off all my qualifications if it would be helpful, but
No, we're past it.
great. Mitch, you and I had talked about, I'm just going to give a very brief presentation to the board with a little bit of background about how we got here and then what's proposed in terms of meeting our fourth round obligation.
Okay.
Jeff
Just to keep-
Stranian, yeah.
Before you start, McKinley, just to confirm, you had with Danielle's assistance previously sent us a copy of the report from which you're going to present a summary.
Yes, so you should have the full report. I also prepared about a 2-page memo that went out. I saw Danielle attached it to an email, a couple emails. So that's what I'm going to be representing today.
Okay,
And
thank you.
the full document has been on file with the board since 13.
Correct, yes, the full 10-day requirement.
Yes.
And it was properly noticed. Danielle is very on top of things. The county and the state and the newspapers we should be good to go. Jeff will be here to answer any questions that are more associated with some of the legal background and help with discussion about next steps as well.
McKinley, it
Um,
should be set up so you can share screen if you want to do your PowerPoint quick.
Perfect. I was just going to ask. So, oh, that says you have disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, let me try that again. It says hosting and participant
Okay.
10.
No, that worked now. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Does everyone see this? It says Millstone Township with some cute little blue houses.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so again, just going to provide a little bit of background. The plan itself provides a great amount of detail on the history of the Mount Laurel litigations and various court rulings, the Council on Affordable Housing, or as we call them, COA, the history with them. So if you're interested, or as we always joke, if you're having trouble sleeping and need something to put you to sleep, there's a lot of history in the plan itself that you can read. Myself, Jeff, Mike, we can all answer those questions as well if anybody has any more specific questions for today. But broadly speaking, what's important to know is that we are in the fourth round of the various housing rounds in New Jersey. In each round, every municipality in New Jersey, with the exception of urban aid communities, are assigned an obligation, a number, to provide a certain amount of new affordable housing units within the community. When we say we're in the fourth round, that's again because this is the fourth time we have done this. The first one being in 1987 to 1993, followed by the second one, which went from 93 to 99. We really have combined, the state has combined those essentially, and we refer to those collectively as the prior round. So while originally there were 2 separate obligations associated with those early rounds, they are now combined into one obligation known as the prior round obligation, which was the obligation assigned for 1987 to 1999. The third round, which is the round we are just finishing, it wraps up on Monday, June 30th, is the longest round that we have had that spanned 25 years from 1999 through June 30th of 2025. The reason for that expansive time frame has to do with a lot of litigation that was going on in the courts associated with the constitutionality of the methodology used to create the obligations that towns were then required to provide mechanisms to meet. As well, there was litigation over the mechanisms themselves. Again, all that history is in the early part of the plan. The fourth round, which is the round we're planning for now, begins July 1st, 2025, and goes through June 30th, 2035. It is the intention that all future rounds be a 10-year period. That is what has been laid out. The Fair Housing Act, originally adopted in 1985, was amended last year in 2024. So we are, as we pursue the fourth round, as we enter into it, we are under slightly different rules and regulations than what we did under the third round. The nuances of those are discussed in the plan as well. I always like to give a chart like this with my communities just to provide some context in terms of really what is affordable housing, what qualifies households to be affordable. Monmouth County is what is known as Housing Region 4. The original legislation that set all of this up broke the state into 6 different housing regions by counties. So Mercer and Ocean County are with Monmouth County in Housing Region 4. So every year there are household income levels that are released. They used to be released by COA, then the Affordable Housing Professionals, and now the Housing Mortgage and Finance Agency has released the 2025 housing household incomes. So the top row here is the region's median income for reference. And then going down, we have what we call moderate income, which is 50 to 80%, low income, 30 to 50% of the median, and the very low income is 30%, below 30% of the median. The numbers that are represented in this chart are the higher end of those ranges. So it would be 80%, 50%, 30%. And you can see a 4-person household, 2 parents, 2 kids, looking at a regional median of 134,000 and change. Going down the line, moderate income household would be about 108,000. A low income household would be just over 67,000, and a very low income household would be 40,000. And when calculating the household income, that's everybody in the household who is making money, I believe over the age of 16. So it could be 1 person, it could be 2 people, it could be 3 people, but either way, those are the income limits when we talk about who are living in affordable housing units themselves, households that break down into those 3 categories. And I should say qualifying for those units is a very intense, laborious, and invasive process. It's basically a financial audit of someone's every financial aspect of their life. So that just to provide a little context, there's nothing in the plan specifically about this, but the standards do require that certain amount of units be preserved for very low and low income. So back to Millstone's obligation over the years. Again, we have the prior round obligation, which is again the 87 to 99 time frame. Millstone has an assigned 81 unit prior round obligation. The third round, which we are, oops, I'm sorry. What happens when I click too quickly. The third round, as we're wrapping up now, the township was assigned 230 units. That was negotiated through a settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center. Both of those obligations and the provisions to meet the obligations were approved in a court order. I'll go through briefly what the court order, what we were approved to do at the township, how we met those. And then in the new 4th round, the town has been assigned a new obligation of 98 units. And that was a number that was calculated based on the new methodology from the amended Fair Housing Act that the township adopted a resolution, the township committee did in January, accepting that number. And in April of this year, we did get a court order affirming that that is our obligation for the 4th round. So that remains unchanged. There was a period in there that somebody could object to our obligation. That's why a court order was issued in April. Nobody objected to the obligation. When I say an entity that would have been developers or the Builders Association or Fair Share Housing Center, and there was no objection. So we have been affirmed at 98 units. There is also what's called a present need or rehabilitation obligation. And this is different. The other numbers we've been discussing have been requirements to produce new affordable housing units. This one is a requirement to rehabilitate existing, what we call deficient housing units or housing units that are already occupied by an affordable household, but need a major systems upgrade, a new roof and HVAC, plumbing, electrical, etc. The rehabilitation obligation does not get carried over between rounds the way the prospective need obligation does. So each round has a rehabilitation obligation, but once that round is done, it goes away essentially and is replaced by the new obligation. So for the 4th round, Millstone has an obligation of 7 units to rehabilitate. I don't go into detail in this PowerPoint about how you'll be meeting those, but the plan goes into detail. The township has had a long-standing agreement with the Affordable Housing Alliance to run the rehabilitation program. It's been in place for about 5 years, and I think they've rehabbed about 6 units within those 5 years. So we have no doubt that they'll be able to meet the 7-unit obligation over the next 10-year period. So how we got to the 98 units, because that's always a question. It's not just plucked out of nowhere. It's also not necessarily done by a on the ground evaluation, I'll say. The methodology that was created in the Fair Housing Act produces a statewide obligation. So that's 84,698 units is what the methodology determined to be the obligation for new affordable housing construction across the entire state of New Jersey. That then gets funneled down by housing region, as we spoke about before. And so Region 4's obligation is 13,822 units. That then gets funneled down one more time to every municipality, which again, Millstones was identified as 98 units. So what we're doing today is looking at the housing element and fair share plan that was prepared. It's a master plan element, but it's broken down into two different sections, essentially. The housing element being part one, which is really just an inventory, demographics. We talk about the housing stock, we talk about employment, we talk about future housing stock projections of what might be created in the township in the next 10 years. But really, it's just an inventory. There's no policy recommendations in that section. Part two is where really the meat and guts are of the plan, which is known as the fair share plan component. That's why we call it a housing element and fair share plan. This portion breaks down the determination of your obligation and considers lands that is appropriate for affordable housing and puts forth the mechanisms that the township is proposing to meet their obligation. What is especially different about this is even though it is a master plan document, which is always under the jurisdiction of the planning board, it is very different from other master plan elements. It is not reviewed in the same way and prepared in the same way as an open space plan, a farmland preservation plan, a land use element. Those all have very heavy input by the planning board and planning board members, whereas, as you guys are aware, you only saw this plan for the first time basically 10 days ago. Part of the reason for the difference is that this really, we always call it a quasi-judicial document because it's working to satisfy a constitutional obligation and is subject to judicial oversight. So while the planning board typically plays a very large role in the preparation of housing elements, ultimately it's of master plan elements, ultimately it's the governing body who determines what is going to be in the fair share plan part of this document. Now, Millstone did put together a very active subcommittee that was made up of myself and Jeff and Danielle and Kevin, and Matt, but also a couple members of the planning board and the township committee. So we always recommend where possible that be a component, and the township's been very active, and it's always very helpful when towns decide to do that. So we've been meeting with that subcommittee about every other week or so, really since January. And even before January, we had been doing it after the town had gotten its third round approvals and just making sure that everything was being implemented and that we were not that the township was not going to be in jeopardy of losing that immunity. So throughout this process, Millstone has been very active in making sure that a lot of members, the committee, the professionals, the planning board have been involved. Ultimately, you will adopt this as a master plan element, but then the governing body, the township committee, I believe tomorrow they have a meeting. They have to endorse this master plan element, and that's another thing that's different from a typical master plan document. So basically, this is just what I said, the process. So you will adopt the housing element as an element of the master plan. The township committee then endorses the housing element, and the adopted and endorsed plan, along with the resolutions doing so, will be submitted. Jeff and his office will submit those documents through the newly established Affordable Housing Resolution Dispute Program, or we just shorten it to the program, which is not dissimilar to COA, but it's also not equivalent to COA. They have a much less power than COA did, but they've been in the established group is set up in the amended Fair Housing Act for all towns to submit these documents to. And the important thing is that all of these documents have to be submitted no later than June 30th, 2025. every single town in New Jersey has to submit a housing plan. Just as an aside, there are only so many planners in New Jersey, so this time frame has been an incredibly fast-paced, fast-moving one. I'd say a little unrealistic, but so far we are meeting that time frame and that requirement. So getting into the actual programming and mechanisms for Millstone, just as a reminder where we came in for the previous rounds, and I apologize, there's a typo here. The prior round obligation is 81, not 91. There were several group homes that there are several group homes that exist in Millstone, and those do count towards credit. So we have the Red Valley group home, the Millstone Canwright group home. Those were both attributed to the prior round. Additionally, a Indian Path, which was a for sale inclusionary development, Novad House, we call it, family rental. And in 2000, the township entered into what was known as a regional contribution agreement with Asbury Park. At that time, the statute allowed towns to sell their obligation to communities that it was determined might be better equipped to absorb and build that obligation. So Millstone sold 46 units of its obligation to Asbury. That mechanism, the regional contribution agreement, or we shorten it to RCA, was later deemed unconstitutional by the court. So we no longer have that option to do that, but any agreements that were put in place prior to that court ruling are still honored. So even though we can't do that anymore, we still can take credit for those 46 units. The bonus credit option, the column on the right here, there has always been an option to take bonus credits up to a 25% of the obligation. In the past, prior and third rounds, those bonus credits were applied to rental units and senior age-restricted units, essentially. That's changed a little in the fourth round, but ultimately we did work to cap out those bonus credits for the prior round. The third round, which again should be fresh in a lot of your minds because that wasn't that long ago that we were reviewing this. Again, there was several group homes within the town. Some developments, we call them carryover. For example, the Red Valley Road group home they expanded their facilities, so we were able to take an additional 2 units from their expansion. 2 units at Indian Path decided to re-up their use controls, so we could take additional units there. And more group homes have been created. There's, of course, the Allen House 1 and 2, the age-restricted rental developments that are across the street from Town Hall, the Burnt Tavern, 6 Novad, and the most recent ones that you guys would probably remember are the CKV project, which is the 66-unit, 100% affordable that received site plan approval from you all a year or 2 ago. And most recently, the Hexa development, the inclusionary project that just received final site plan approval in May. There was also an affordable accessory apartment overlay zone that was put into place as part of the third round mechanism. So combined between the units and the bonus credits that we claimed for all of those developments, we hit the 231 requirement. And the court and Fair Share Housing Center, through our settlement agreement, agreed with and approved these mechanisms. So the township is in compliance with its prior and third round obligations. Development has been moving forward for CKV and Baldacchino, so there's no concern on behalf of myself and the professionals that could be taken away. So here we are finally at our fourth round. Again, we were assigned an obligation of 98 units, which quite frankly is a lot to figure out how to meet when you are in a community with no public sewer or water. We are proposing to meet it through 3 different 100% affordable developments, and I have maps for each of these on the following pages. The development known as Shuley, which might be familiar to some of you because we actually did discuss it during the third round. It was originally going to be a third round mechanism, but ultimately the timing on it didn't work for the third round, and we were able to push it to the fourth round. It's right off Novad Court, very close to the southern border of Millstone. That site will be produced developed by the Affordable Housing Alliance to produce 25 family rental units, and we're going to capture 24 bonus credits from that development. The township recently purchased a new site just down the street from Town Hall and from the two Allen House existing projects. So we're going to call this one Allen House 3, and it will, just like Allen House 1 and 2, will also be a 10-unit age-restricted rental development, also to be developed by the Affordable Housing Alliance. Finally, there is a third property. The address is Red Valley Road. That is for sale. The township is currently working on negotiating with the owner for a purchase price. That will be 100% affordable unit with about 40 units of family rental with the hope of doing some veterans preference as part of that as well. So we end up with 75 physical units, 24 bonus credits. So we actually end up with 99 total units as opposed to 1 unit over our 98 unit obligation. So just for some context, we have the map on the left is the Shuley site. You can see the Novad Court development just south, or I'm sorry, right away just south of it. There are wetlands shown on this map, but there's a significant amount of uplands. The housing plan also has a concept plan for the proposed 25 unit development, so we're confident that that can fit and move forward. The lot on the map on the right is the newly purchased site for Allen House 3, really right at that intersection with Stagecoach Road, Spring Road, and where Red Valley kind of hits in there too. This site is, you can see, it's very dry. There's no environmental constraints on it. We have spoken, the township has been in contact with the Affordable Housing Alliance, and they're very confident that they can basically just plop the same design from the previous Allen House developments right on top of here and do something very similar. And it's less than half a mile away from the other Allen House developments, very close to Town Hall. So location-wise, it makes complete sense to have this development here. Following the map on the left here is the 29 Red Valley lot. You can see it's divided by a drainage ditch that extends off the man-made lake to the south. So it's all man-made. There's some minor wetlands surrounding it, but still a significant amount of uplands that could be created, could be utilized to create affordable housing. Depending on the funding sources, and we're confident that there's several funding sources out there. We would be pursuing a partnership with a 100% affordable developer, whether it's the Affordable Housing Alliance or we have somebody else who's indicated they're also interested. We would likely be splitting that 40 units into maybe 3 different smaller projects within the site. So it actually is not a big deal that the site is divided by a drainage ditch, because we're probably going to be splitting those projects out anyways. And then finally on the right is just a zoomed out aerial of the township identifying where in town all of these developments are. Most of them, I should say. We're missing the Novad Court one, I'm realizing now, but broadly you can see how they've been distributed throughout the town. And that's the summary of how we're meeting the obligation. Looking ahead, the plan is for you all hopefully to adopt this plan today, and then the township committee has a meeting tomorrow where they will endorse the plan. Jeff and his office will submit the documents to the program, and there is a objection window from July 1st through August 31st where interested parties could object to the plan. If there is objection to anything in the plan, the town and that entity would enter into mediation with the program. If there's no objection at the end of that 60-day period, then my understanding is all towns with no objection will get essentially a certificate of some kind from the program confirming no objection and securing the immunity for the next 10 years. So that's my little spiel for you. I'm going to stop sharing, but can pull it up if anybody has any questions or specifics about any of those slides, and happy to answer any more specific questions, and Jeff of course can chime in on anything as well.
Before we open it up to board questions, thank you, McKinley, for a very thorough presentation. We appreciate it. Easy to follow. Thanks, and thanks for the historical context also. Before we open up to board questions, just did want to give Jeff or Mike or even Matt, our professionals, a chance to weigh in on anything that they wanted to add or confirm.
I just wanted to provide some context. We had the Fair Housing Act last March. It gave us a January deadline to commit to a number and file a declaratory judgment action. So we did that. So we filed the action. We're under the jurisdiction of a court. That bought us immunity. To maintain immunity, we have to file this plan by June 30th. So that's why it's so important that we file this plan. Then there's this 60-day objection period through August 31st, and then mediation begins in September. So that's the big picture. One thing I would emphasize is the deadlines in the statute were ridiculous. And what made things more ridiculous by comparison to what the Fair Housing Act said in 1985, we had a lot longer to prepare a plan, and compared to the history of what's happened in court, these plans typically take far longer to prepare than the statute gave us. But McKinley, to her credit, got it done, but we ran into a problem. And the problem that we ran into was the Decatur site that we were working with Luciano Bruni on. We began that journey thinking that there was a lot more developable land. And it wasn't until mid-May that we realized that it wasn't going to work, that he couldn't do on that site what he planned. And so we've shifted from that site to this Red Valley Road site, and we're vigorously and aggressively trying to get site control so we can put it all together. The point of all that is Millstone, like the vast majority of municipalities, this doesn't end June 1. We need to keep on plowing after June 1 to get all our ducks in a row, because by the time we hit mediation in September, we want to have solved for anticipated objections. We want to have site control. We want to have a concept plan of how we're going to do the 40 units on site so that we are in the most defensible position. So I just want to make clear to everyone, A, we got to adopt and file the plan to get that immunity, and B, we still have work to do to buttress the plan because of this last minute realization mid-May on the Decatur site that they don't have the developable land that they thought they did.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. And anything from Matt or Mike?
Not for me.
No, I mean, we've worked on Shuley property for a long time, and the Allen House 3 should be simple. On Red Valley, we haven't done anything yet, but it's a good sized property. We could split it to 2 or 3 lots, see how that works. So.
Okay, but bottom line, Matt, you're comfortable with the communities as McKinley has proposed them?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so Mike, unless there's anything else we would do, I'll open it up to the comments from the board, and then we'll open it up to the public. Any board members have any questions or comments? Okay, so
I have some comments, Mr.
yeah,
Chairman.
go ahead, Steve.
So I've been involved a long time, and I want to just say that my family and I thank everybody that was involved. We really appreciate it, all the effort that was put into this, because this is an opportunity for us to have 100% municipally sponsored with partners, with appropriate partners, to minimize the impact of the affordable housing on Millstone Township. And we did not like the last round. The people that were involved here worked hard and diligently to make sure that we have a plan that I think is defensible moving forward. And we don't have to have a whole bunch, we don't have to have a 4-to-1 set aside, okay? Where we have hundreds of condominiums someplace, overusing the land someplace in town. It's peppered around town with all the appropriate types of family uses and age restricted uses and low income uses, that it doesn't make a really big impact on Millstone. And hopefully everything that is presented here today will move forward, and that's something that we could work with. And in addition to that, I want to say that it's really good that our township committee is looking pretty strongly at this and in a very accepting way, understanding what the implications are and the impacts are of not having something like this in hand right now. So, the only thing I could say is that my family and I really appreciate everything that's been done here.
And thank you, Steve. Well said. I certainly echo your comments, and I suspect many of us do. Danielle, we did see something in the chat.
Yes, Mr. Copy's having a problem with his microphone, but he did put a question in the chat. And thank you, Steve. What will happen if 29 Red Valley Road doesn't work out or didn't work out? Can we still get a different lot with no issues and can be approved?
So that's a good question. And right now, the town is working with the property owner who is already, before we approached them, they did want to sell. The town is working to try to amicably come to an agreement about the value of the property so that they can purchase it. However, in the event that that agreement or that discussion does not proceed, the township committee is willing and ready to condemn the site for the use of affordable housing, which I'll defer to the lawyers about the background of that, but that is a tool that they can use. So we are confident that one way or another, the town will become the owner of that site. Jeff, I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's not a maybe plan. This is our plan. We are acquiring this site. We're going to try to do it amicably. If we can't do it amicably, the Fair Housing Act empowers municipalities to condemn. So site control is a big issue, and so that's we've had to address it, and that's how we're addressing it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was a good question and a solid answer. Appreciate that. Any other questions or comments from any other board members before we open up to the public?
Yeah, the other thing I would comment for the record about this site is the developer that was interested in the Decatur site has expressed an interest in this site. So we have multiple developers that specialize in this kind of thing that are interested in this site. It makes it much more realistic, much more defensible. So in the days ahead, we're going to be, tying down these kinds of things so that, by September, if we're in mediation and people are wagging their finger at us, you don't have site control, this is a fairy tale, we're going to be able to meet that head on. That is the goal between now and September.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to any questions or comments from any members of the public. If anyone is in the public and would like to speak to us, please either raise your hand or simply speak up. And Danielle, would you please also look around to see if there's anyone out there?
There's no one, actually, there's no one from the public on our call right now. So I'm going to confidently say there's none.
Okay, good job. All right, so we'll close the public comment portion of this meeting. And Mike, anything further we need to do, or would you please direct us in the type of motion if we're going to act affirmatively on this?
You need a motion and a second to approve the housing element fair share plan as submitted.
Okay.
And very quickly before that motion is made, I do just want to say on record, there are a number of typos that have been caught in this plan. Mike did a very good job reading through it. This happens when you submit plans at midnight on a Thursday night before the deadline. They're all very minor, I can assure you. So we will get those corrected. So on the record, a few little items that I will fix before sending back to the town for final publication.
Do you want to read them into the record, McKinley?
I think they're just clerical, like scribers
They're
errors.
not substantive.
Okay. You don't feel the need that it needs to be read into the record, Mike?
I don't think so. It's all clerical. It's not
Okay.
substantive.
Okay.
And if I may, when we make the motion, if anybody is inclined to do so, we have an associated resolution. So if we can memorialize that resolution in the same swipe, that would be great.
So is it two separate motions, Mike?
Yeah, you can adopt the resolution, make the motion to approve and adopt the resolution in one.
I just need a little
Okay. So I'll move ahead and make that motion to approve the affordable housing affordable housing element and fair share plan as explained by McKinley, understanding there are minor clerical typographical matters that will be cleaned up as administrative matters, and also add that motion to move ahead with the resolution of approval for that same housing element and fair share plan. Is there a second to that motion?
I can second.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or suggested revisions? Seeing none, Danielle, please call the roll.
Chairman Newman,
Yes.
Committeeman Ziner,
Yes.
Committeewoman Zabrowski,
Yes.
Mr. Cotby. He says yes in
He
the
said
chat.
yes.
He said yes.
Mr. Lambros,
Yes.
Mr. Pepe. I think he dropped off on the call there. He's still on there. We'll come back. Ms. Sinha,
Yes.
Mr. Perino,
Yes.
and Mr. Cipriano.
Yes.
And is Mr. Pepe able to open up his mic again? That's okay. We
there anything
still
in
have
this-
a motion 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Okay.
8.
Right. So the motion passes?
The motion passes with 8 positive votes.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. I appreciate the hard work, McKinley, Jeff, Mike, Matt, and our committee members, and a couple others that helped along the way. So thank you for putting us in the right position here. Very much appreciated. Next thing on our agenda, Danielle, is actually there's no applications or any other items. Is there anything you wanted to point out for us before we adjourn?
Mike, would you mind if we took 2 seconds for executive just to close out something?
Board.
I'm sorry, Mike, I couldn't hear you.
That's up to the board.
We can have it tonight or we can have it next time. That was the correspondence about litigation.
I think
I think we can do that at the regular meeting.
We can hold off to the regular, not a problem.
Yeah.
That at the regular meeting.
Jeff, you're welcome to split.
Okay.
Go ahead. And all right, so we'll hold that off, Danielle, to the regular meeting. Seeing
course.
nothing else on our agenda, thank you all for joining on a special meeting during the daytime. I know everyone has very busy calendars, but this was important and well done, everyone. So I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll make-
second.
Wow, lots of seconds. Good luck, Danielle, figuring that one out.
I
All in
gotcha.
favor, say aye.
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 Then we are unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you
You
all.
too.
Thank you guys for coming out.
I
Stay
appreciate
cool.
you.
Stay cool,
Yeah,
everybody.
seriously.
Yeah,
Take
better
care.
than traveling, right?
Don't go
Yeah.
outside.